This is it?
This is it.
This is it.
This is it.
This is
is
your
it.
line.
Neal Schon.
It's really Schon, you know.
Is it Schon?
Yes.
I'm saying it wrong.
Well, you know, people have asked me 2 different times, and I changed my mind now, so I went back to
Oh,
Schon.
great. Terrific. Probably just right now.
It really means a lot anyway, right?
Neal Schon.
Yeah, it sounds more American, you know. I'm actually German. My last name is German. The other half's Italian, but it really means, in Germany, it's Schon.
Schon.
Right, but over here, it's Schon.
Schon. Like S-H-A-W-N.
Right.
Spelled S-C-H-O-N. Is tape rolling?
Tape is rolling.
Okay, great.
You're plenty of speed.
Neal, so how long have you lived in San Francisco?
Oh, God, let's see, I'm 30 now. I've been living here since I was 7 years old.
And what was the first musical sort of experience that you remember in being here? What was this first sort of...
The thing that I remember the most is maybe the first time I met a few of the members from Santana, and I was playing in this club down by the peninsula, close to San Mateo where I lived. It was called the Poppycock in Palo Alto. And I was in there playing with this band called Old Davis, which was a band that I was in, you know, from the early days down there. And we were a pretty good, like, rock and roll band. Played, like, a lot of Little Richard tunes and old rock and roll. And we were playing, and the bass player, 9-year, knew Greg Rowley and Michael Shreves pretty well from the Santana band. So they stopped by to see us play one night, and we ended up jamming the whole night, and they closed down the club, kicked everybody out, and we sat up and played until about 6 in the morning. And then ever since then, that's the thing I remember the most, because that's the way I got into sort of knowing these guys in Santana in the early days.
How long were you with Santana?
I was with Santana through 1970 through 72.
And then, what after Santana?
After Santana, I sat around for a while and was trying to get something together with Greg Rico and Peter Sears, which is now in the Starship, you know, the bass player. And we had sort of like a power trio happening. It was pretty good. I've listened to some tapes of it, you know. We had some decent material, but we were unable to find a good lead vocalist. So after about a year of that, I bailed on the project, and Greg Rico and I went to work with Larry Graham. It was the Graham Central Station M, which he is the ex-bass player for Sly Stone, and Greg Rico was the ex-drummer for Sly Stone, the original band. And we did that for about a half a year and decided that it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. It wasn't what he wanted to do. So in the meantime, Herbie, my manager, had approached me about starting a band, a new band. And that's what we did.
And that band became?
Journey.
From the statement that you just made about playing in the club and meeting up with the people from Santana, it seems like, about what year was that?
This had to be like 1967, 68, something like that.
So would you say around that time there was a pretty strong club scene in San Francisco?
Very strong. That's what I'm most disappointed about anymore in the city, is like that it's all turned into tits and ass shows, you know, up and down Broadway. I mean, everybody likes to look at a little TNA, you know, but like, hey, it's all around. You can look at it on the sidewalk. You can look at it in restaurants. It's everywhere. And I think it's really terrible that they just, you know, it used to be a lot of up and down Broadway was nothing but a bunch. There was like a lot of blues clubs and jazz clubs, little pubs, you know. It's like more like a little bit more like New York, or you know. London or places like that. There was a lot of stuff happening around here around, you know, 12 years ago.
Why do you think the club scene died? What do you think happened?
I really haven't any idea. I'm sad that it did, though, because there's no place for me to go anymore. I don't like to sit in my house and watch TV all day long. You know, I really like to get out and get around, mingle around a lot of people, and suss out like a lot of music and check out what's out there.
In the early 60s or in the late 60s, especially when you started playing around, was it real prevalent for musicians, even not in a club situation, I mean just musicians to sort of hang out together and play together? Yeah,
it really was. In the earlier days it was. I mean, it's not so much anymore. Like I said, it's like, but in those days, you know, I would be hanging out, like when I was 15, I met all the club owners around here, and I was playing a lot of blues in those days, and it was like, you know, the club down the street here, the Keystone Corner, used to be Michael Bloomfield's and Elvin Bishop's hangout. And so I used to go in there and play with Alvin all the time. And I'd meet the club owners, and they'd let me in, even though they could get their license taken away. It was sort of fun.
So how do you think bands get started today? What do people do? How does it happen today?
I guess it just happens like it's always happened. You get together and say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could play some music together and write our own material? And I don't know, I guess when you start a band, you have to be inspired by some type of music that you've been listening to that makes you want to play, you know.
What do you think inspired people like Carlos and those people in that 60s period?
I think there was a lot of African roots to the music in the early days. It was much more primitive than you know, where it's been since then. But I've recently Carlos was over at my house the other day, and he played me some of his new album that's going to be coming out soon, and it sounds really good. It sounds very much like a lot of the older stuff, and with a lot of newer ideas that are floating around now today.
What inspires Journey?
God, I don't know. I mean, each individual is inspired by different things. We're all like different people, you know, and we listen to different types of music. So I can't really speak for everybody else, you know. It's like I'm just inspired. I listen to a lot of different types of music myself, like everybody else in the band does. And whatever, you know, rubs me the right way, I'll go with it for that moment. But I'm not really locked into like listening to one certain kind of music. I like listening to everything.
Would you ever consider living any place other than San Francisco?
Maybe Sydney, Australia.
Why Sydney?
I've been there once before on a promotional tour, and it's a really beautiful city. It's like supposedly the sister city to San Francisco, you know, and I really like the people there. I like the city. It's really beautiful. Nice.
Do you think there's anything musically happening in Sydney that parallels San Francisco?
I don't really think so. I think the music is a different type of music that's coming out of Australia. But I think there's a lot of music happening there, and that's one of the reasons I could live there, you know. There is a lot of stuff happening there. There's been a lot of good stuff that's come out of there lately, I think.
Do you think, Neal, that there ever was a quote-unquote Bay Area sound?
Yeah, there probably was I mean, I would say back in the 60s, you know. Now anymore, it's like, we talked about this earlier. Can we talk? Anymore, I mean, you know, there's not that much that I can really identify with around here that has the label San Francisco sound on it, you know, because I don't know what is that sound? I mean, you're asking me, and now I'm going to ask you, what is that sound? It's like, how can you put a label on something like that when there hasn't been that much really, you know, I mean, there's a lot of new bands coming out of here. Like, I've heard a few bands. There's a band called Stick Figures, and there's a band called Secrets, and The Drive, and Bonnie Hayes. There's like a lot of new, you know, like new wave sort of acts coming out of here that I went and seen it, and they sound like they could be really new, promising San Francisco sounds coming out of San Francisco. But before this, you know, I mean, before a couple months ago, before I saw these bands, I mean, I can't really put a label on anybody else like that. In the early days, there was like, you know, the Santana and Sly Stone. It was like the Electric Flag. There was, you know, God, there was, you know, Jefferson Airplane, the Grateful Dead. I mean, the whole scene was, you know, in the 60s.
Herbie just, when I was talking to him, Herbie made a statement that people in Japan can hear a record and know that it's a San Francisco record.
I think there's some validity to that, and Japanese have a very keen sense of being able to tap into something like that. I don't know about how they go about it, but it's like very, it's different when you go there. I mean, they know everything. They know more about you than you know about yourself when you go there. Honest to God, they do their homework. I don't know what they read, but I could use a book myself to find out about myself.
There certainly is a lot of talk, and there's been a tremendous amount written and documentaries done about San Francisco, especially in the 60s, and the whole socio-political scene that was going on here. Do you think that had any effect on musicians and music?
No. Music is like the savior of all that crap, all right? That's the way I look at it. I mean, I'm not really into politics, And I think it's just like, you know, it takes people away from something that's going to make them much happier, whatever they would be doing besides that. But like music, I think, is the thing that saves people from going crazy. You know, people that get too locked up into that. Music is always the outlet, you know, the thing that it'll keep you sane for an extra moment. You hear a song that you can relate to on a radio that takes your mind off of something that's totally boggling you. You know, you turn it on, you say, oh yeah, I can sing along with this. This is happening to me right now, but it makes me feel good that somebody else is there with me.
San Francisco, a nice place to come home to?
I love it. I mean, when you're flying down late at night, usually it's late at night, and there's all these lights. It's like lit up like a giant Christmas tree, you know. And you always know it's San Francisco. I mean, I've landed in many places all over the world, you know, but there's a special thing to flying in San Francisco Airport. I love it.
Great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Is that it?
That's it.
Great.
That was pretty painless, wasn't
Chevy Chase, you know.
I hope the tape was rolling there. We will use that.
Yeah, it was on.
So, yeah, there you go.
So you're talking and talking like
And
you're
I'm
talking.
You're not talking.
No, I'm talking to you and I'm saying, Neal, how would you like to do Martha Quinn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Neal.
What about Martha Quinn attracts your attention?
Neal, someone's stealing your Ferrari right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's insured.
Yeah, plenty of insurance.
Mhm.
You're gonna do it tomorrow.
How's that? Is that enough, guys?
Okay.
Okay.